Hello and welcome to another episode of Maths Moments Monday. Now, what's Maths Moments Monday? It is bite-sized maths PD by teachers and for teachers. Every week we get a new teacher to come in, show us what they're doing in their classroom. So this is episode 3, and this week we are joined by an amazing teacher, Anna Mackay. You can check her out on YouTube. Anna Mackay Math is the YouTube channel. Link in the description. All right, she's going to be showing us today peer review for investigations. Super powerful stuff. Take it away, Anna.
Let's talk about the idea of doing peer reviews when your students are doing investigations or folio tasks, whatever you call them in your state. I wonder if you've ever done drafts, sat down with a student, spent all the time doing that with them, and then some of them don't go and take on all the feedback that you've written, and that feels like a complete waste of your time. How can we do something a bit more efficient for them and for you? If you invest the time creating one of these peer reviews and then taking the time to have the students do it, it's going to save you a lot of time when you come to mark the investigations. And hopefully you'll like it, and the amount of work that you put in to start with, you'll be able to use in future years when you redo the investigation. And of course, we want some benefits for the students as well. So by having a checklist here, it's going to empower them to know what they need to do to achieve a C, a B, and an A level, instead of them saying, what do I need to do, miss, to get an A? So yes, you have to invest this time when you're planning out the investigation, and almost imagine what it looks like when you're marking an A, a B, and a C level investigation, and what each requirement will they have at those levels, so that you're then giving that to the students to help them use it as a checklist, and then hopefully less debates when you hand them back as opposed to, this should have been an A. A quick example to give you something in context. Here was an investigation for our Stage 1 Year 11 a polynomials investigation. And so we had these 3 turtles that were running a 12-meter race and looking at what happened. So here's a graph of what happened. The purple line at the top is when they each reach the 12 meters, if they do. As you can see, the green one doesn't. And so they had to graph those. And so this is the first part. Lots of C-level maths here, finding where the equations meet each other and get to 12. A second part, part B, is they have to come up with an equation for one of the new turtles, and looking at, there were some requirements that had to happen in terms of changing direction at least once, and is at the halfway mark halfway through the race. So they had to create a polynomial to make that happen. So as you can see, the different levels of maths that are happening here. Part C, more complex maths, more requirements that had to happen, and they had to test different versions of this to see if they could refine their model. This peer review tool, a colleague started it off, but feel free to email me to get this template. As you can see, lots of the different presentation things that we require so that we don't have to say it a million times to the students. Trying to think about what is the C level of maths, so that if a student does the minimum amount, what is all that they need to do to pass. So that needs you having a think about the final product by the time you hand this out, this peer review, preferably at the beginning when you're handing it out. I don't think it's such a bad thing to give them some of the answers, because then they know where they're heading, particularly because all the students are probably going to have very similar maths for these early parts. And then when you're thinking about the B and the A band, I'm assuming for most states it would be fairly similar, that the A level is about how they talk about their maths, how they interpret the results, and discussing all of the limitations. And an example of another peer review, I handwrote because I didn't have the time to work it out into the computer. So this was a complex numbers one, a pre-specialist maths type of thing in year 11 again. As you can see, this particular section had C and B level maths worked into that part, the part B. And then likewise again, C and B level in at the same level together. And you can see my little pictures and diagrams to help the students know if they're on the right track or not. And A level is about how they're discussing all of that. So how do I make these work? I guess in 1 week of the course, I allow the time for drafts. So I'm meeting with the students for a 15-minute appointment. I don't take drafts home anymore. We either do it in lesson time or in my free lessons. So yes, it's a busy week, but then there's no nighttime work. Also, one of those sessions is the peer review session. Make sure you get them to hand it up electronically too, in case they don't do any more on it, and then you've got a copy of what they've done. Make sure you take a photocopy of the peer review that they do on the day with their peer. So then that's almost a starting point. So when you come to mark their final, let's say they got a C+ at the draft point or the peer review point, hopefully their final is a C+ or more. It's going to empower the students to know how much that they've done and what level that they're at and how much more they need to do. And also if the student is below a passing grade, you know which parents you need to contact home if that's a requirement of your school to say that how much more work they need to do on it. I hope I've possibly convinced you to think about giving peer reviews a go. A bit of work to set it up, but it's going to make your life when you come to marking their finals so much quicker, and the students are empowered by it too.